Some individuals walk through the world carrying qualities that society struggles to define or understand. These are not individuals who broadcast their beliefs loudly or craft carefully curated images of enlightenment for social media audiences. Instead, they exist more as witnesses to existence rather than actors on a stage. At first glance, nothing about them seems particularly remarkable. Yet, spend genuine time in their presence. Truly absorb the way they articulate their understanding of existence, recurring cycles, suffering, and meaning, and something becomes undeniable. This person operates on a frequency most never access. According to Jungian psychology, such individuals dwell remarkably near to what Jung termed the authentic self, that profound spiritual nucleus within the human psyche that most avoid approaching throughout their entire lives. Their nature transcends simple descriptions like pleasant, generous, or morally upright. They possess what might be described as profound spiritual awareness, a particular lens through which they perceive and navigate existence that subtly demonstrates just how conscious their essence truly remains. Many of these characteristics remain concealed from casual observation. Externally, these qualities might be misinterpreted as excessive emotional responsiveness, unwarranted gravity, or uncomfortable intensity. Beneath such superficial judgments, however, these are actually indicators of someone whose internal landscape thrives with extraordinary vitality. If you feel this inner depth, write "awake" in the comments. Before exploring these 6 concealed characteristics, take a moment to pause and reflect. Perhaps you have experienced the sensation of perceiving elements others overlook, of experiencing emotions with profound intensity, of questioning assumptions silently, and gradually recognizing that perhaps this trait is not a deficiency, but rather an extraordinary capacity. Should you find yourself repeatedly discovering content precisely when your inner being requires it most, consider taking a moment to engage with this content and stay connected, so you will not miss future material that addresses this dimension of your experience. By the conclusion of this presentation, a curated collection will be available for you to access. Preserve it for later. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, allow it to continue playing quietly in your environment. While your physical form recuperates, your deeper consciousness will continue absorbing, processing, and settling into your authentic nature. Now, we can examine the 6 hidden characteristics present in individuals with profound spiritual awareness through a perspective informed by Jungian analysis. First, she interprets existence through archetypal meaning, rather than merely through isolated occurrences. Most individuals perceive their journey as a linear progression of disconnected happenings. One incident occurred, followed by another incident, nothing more to consider. Someone with mature spiritual consciousness senses that deeper currents perpetually flow beneath visible events. Her inquiry extends beyond simply asking what transpired. She pursues understanding regarding what lessons or revelations these circumstances might contain. She becomes attuned to recurring motifs, the way identical personality types continue appearing, though inhabiting different physical forms, the manner in which comparable dynamics persist throughout her connections until she establishes firm limits, the fashion in which seemingly unrelated occurrences align precisely when she contemplates altering her trajectory. Others might dismiss this as excessive analysis. Jung would identify it as symbolic perception, the capacity to discern soul-level significance within mundane reality. When anguish arrives, her immediate response might remain simply questioning why such suffering must occur. Her humanity remains intact. She experiences genuine pain. Yet beneath that immediate distress, another question simultaneously emerges. What transformation or insight does this experience invite her toward? This inquiry arises not from self-blame, but from genuine curiosity rooted in spiritual consciousness. She begins recognizing that the relationship ending involved far more than simply losing another person. It revealed the extent to which she compromised her own integrity, attempting to maintain that connection. The employment termination extended beyond financial implications. It represented being removed from a position fundamentally misaligned with her authentic purpose. The disagreement transcended mere interpersonal conflict. It functioned as a reflection, revealing where she continues abandoning her own truth. This perspective does not suggest she believes everything happens for predetermined reasons in some simplistic fashion. Rather, it means she refuses to allow suffering to remain meaningless. She extracts wisdom from every encounter, whether pleasant or challenging. Jung might observe that the psyche communicates from profound depths. Nothing exists as merely literal fact. Existence perpetually communicates through nocturnal visions, meaningful coincidences, repeating motifs, and interpersonal dynamics. Other individuals exist exclusively on the superficial layer. She cannot tolerate such limitation. This represents one manifestation of her hidden spiritual awareness. Second, she embraces her darker aspects rather than maintaining pretenses of flawlessness. Many individuals conflate spiritual development with maintaining constant positivity, goodness, and luminosity. They suppress frustration, covetousness, resentment, and sorrow, then commend themselves for transcending such feelings. Jung would assert that this approach does not constitute genuine spirituality. This represents avoidance of genuine spiritual work. Someone with authentic spiritual depth demonstrates far greater courage. She deliberately turns toward her shadow self. She acknowledges internally that yes, she experiences jealousy. Yes, she can exhibit controlling tendencies. Yes, disturbing thoughts sometimes arise. Yes, she still harbors fury, melancholy, envy, and anxiety. Not because she approves of these dimensions, but because she understands Jung's teaching. Whatever you refuse to acknowledge within yourself does not simply vanish. It merely retreats into hidden recesses and exerts control from concealment. Therefore, she practices complete honesty with herself. When jealousy surfaces, she does not claim to feel only happiness for others. She admits that part of her feels jealous and recognizes that this jealousy illuminates her own unfulfilled longings. When rage emerges, she does not insist everything remains fine and loving. She admits she feels furious because some aspect of her being feels profoundly disrespected or invisible. When judgmental thoughts appear, she does not congratulate herself for rising above such reactions. She inquires into what within herself responds so strongly to what she observes in others. This does not mean she surrenders to every impulse or behaves recklessly. It means she refuses self-deception. She understands her shadow does not constitute her adversary. It provides a map toward necessary healing. Thus, she abandons pursuing perfection and instead pursues wholeness. That completeness, containing both illumination and darkness, affection and anger, gentleness and firm limits, renders her spiritually authentic. Others might project greater sanctity outwardly, but she engages in the vulnerable internal work. This constitutes genuine spiritual depth. If you choose to be real, write whole in the comments. Third, she maintains comfort with contradiction rather than pursuing simplistic conclusions. Individuals with immature spiritual development desperately seek absolute certainties. They demand to know whether someone qualifies as entirely good or entirely bad, whether a direction is absolutely correct or absolutely incorrect, whether an emotion qualifies as spiritual or unspiritual. Someone with mature spiritual awareness learns inhabiting ambiguous territory. She comprehends that someone can genuinely care for you while simultaneously causing harm. One can experience gratitude while also longing for more. Forgiveness can coexist with maintaining boundaries. Something can align with divine guidance while remaining extraordinarily painful. She resists rushing toward the most convenient interpretation merely to escape discomfort. Jung would observe that she has cultivated the ability to maintain tension, allowing contradictions to coexist without immediately forcing resolution. She can articulate missing someone while simultaneously knowing return would require self-betrayal. She can express pride regarding her progress while acknowledging areas requiring continued growth without descending into shame. She can affirm belief in divine timing while actively engaging in necessary work without collapsing into passivity. This capacity for holding paradox remains rare. Society demands tidy categories, yet the soul resists confinement within rigid boxes. While others cling to rigid doctrine, she maintains openness, curiosity, and humility. Not from weakness, but from wisdom, understanding that truth frequently exceeds the boundaries of single statements, singular labels, or particular perspectives. Her spiritual maturity manifests in her ability to state that she does not yet fully comprehend something, while continuing to move forward. embracing mystery rather than forcing false certainty. Fourth, her heightened sensitivity does not represent weakness. It functions as spiritual instrumentation. Individuals with profound spiritual awareness often demonstrate remarkable sensitivity towards subtle variations in tone, energetic qualities, atmospheric shifts, and unspoken tensions within environments. During childhood, she likely heard repeatedly that she was excessively sensitive, that she analyzed situations unnecessarily, that she took matters far too seriously. Consequently, she attempted to develop emotional armor, to numb her responses, to cultivate imperviousness. Yet each attempt to suppress her sensitivity resulted in feeling increasingly disconnected from herself, from the divine, from lived experience. Jung would observe that her sensitivity does not constitute a deficiency. It comprises part of her perceptive apparatus. Someone with mature spiritual consciousness eventually recognizes that her physical being alerts her to unsuitable environments long before her rational mind reaches the same conclusion. Her nervous system contracts around individuals who deplete her energy, even when their words appear entirely appropriate. She experiences anxiety, intensifying when she betrays herself, even when external observers perceive no difficulty. She experiences genuine peace, not merely relief, surrounding individuals and locations authentically beneficial for her essence. Therefore, she ceases treating her sensitivity as an irritation and begins treating it as guidance. If you honor your sensitivity, write guidance in the comments. She observes patterns. Each time she departs from that particular interaction, she feels diminished and confused. That specific environment consistently creates tightness in her chest. She feels more anchored and recognized following conversations with this individual. She adjusts her choices accordingly. She exits spaces her physical being continuously rejects. She creates distance from individuals who appear positive only superficially. She selects slowness when her nervous system urgently demands rest. Spiritual awareness here does not involve accumulating greater spiritual information. It involves respecting the subtle methods through which her soul communicates through her physical form. Society might continue labeling her excessively sensitive, yet she understands this sensitivity represents how the divine, intuition, and profound wisdom frequently capture her attention. Fifth, she embodies powerful compassion paired with distinct spiritual boundaries. Someone with spiritual depth possesses innate compassion. She perceives others' wounds. She discerns the history underlying behavior. She can sense why individuals manifest as they do. This capacity once endangered her because recognizing the wounded child within someone led her to excuse harmful adult behavior displayed before her. She would rationalize with statements like, acknowledging they have endured significant hardship, while silently absorbing their disrespect, dishonesty, and unreliability. Jung might observe she had become over-identified with the healer archetype, that aspect longing to rescue, repair, and redeem others. Authentic spiritual maturity does not eliminate that compassion, it refines it. She cultivates a transformed approach combining fierce compassion with boundaries. She can articulate understanding why someone behaves as they do, truly perceiving their suffering, while simultaneously refusing to allow their unhealed dimensions to continue damaging her own. She no longer romanticizes suffering. Yes, she knows everyone carries burdens. Yes, she understands that trauma, cultural conditioning, and family dynamics shape individuals. Yet she also knows that understanding someone differs fundamentally from accepting an obligation to remain perpetually in harm's way. She stops confusing spiritual development with maintaining endless availability toward individuals who resist transformation. She permits herself to care for people from distance, to hold them in prayer without maintaining contact, to extend forgiveness without re-entering previous dynamics. Her compassion becomes grounded in reality. Her heart remains receptive, yet her life is not freely accessible to all. This equilibrium between a tender heart and strong spine marks genuine spiritual depth. It demonstrates she finally understands she is not divine. She can offer care, support, and reflection, yet she cannot rescue anyone from circumstances they persistently choose. Sixth, she will restructure her entire existence rather than compromise her soul. This perhaps constitutes the clearest indicator of all. Numerous individuals discuss spiritual concepts, including inspirational quotes, sacred texts, crystals, rituals, and practices. Yet, when confronting actual life decisions regarding relationships, careers, locations, and habits, they select convenience over authentic alignment. Someone with profound spiritual consciousness eventually reaches a point where continuing such compromise becomes impossible. She might comply with expected scripts for some period, remaining where safety exists, remaining where appearances satisfy others, remaining where familiarity provides comfort. Yet her soul continues protesting. She experiences this as persistent anxiety, inexplicable sadness, repetitive dreams, or that relentless internal voice, questioning whether this truly constitutes her authentic life. Jung would assert that the self, that deeper spiritual center, will not cease attempting to gain her attention. Therefore, she makes choices that frequently appear incomprehensible to external observers. She might depart from a relationship appearing ideal on paper because she knows truthfully it gradually extinguishes her spirit. She might transform her professional path, abandoning prestige or security because her authentic calling draws her toward greater honesty. She might gently distance herself from family patterns, refusing generational cycles of silence, becoming the unconventional one who pursues therapy, establishes boundaries, and disrupts harmful legacies. These decisions lack glamour. They frequently bring loneliness, financial uncertainty, judgment, and misunderstanding. Yet within those quiet, frightening choices, her spiritual consciousness shines brilliantly. She demonstrates willingness to disappoint others, rather than continue betraying her soul. Willing to be misunderstood, rather than continue misunderstanding herself. Willing to journey with the divine into uncertainty, rather than inhabit a life satisfying everyone's expectations except her own truth. She does not achieve perfection. She still experiences doubt, weeps, and overthinks during early morning hours. Yet, reviewing her journey, she recognizes that each time she selected internal alignment over external approval, her existence gradually transformed to feel increasingly authentic. If you are choosing your soul, write deep in the comments. That courage to reconstruct her life around her soul, rather than reconstructing her soul around her life, constitutes profound spiritual awareness. Should you remain present at this point, this message addresses you directly. Perhaps while absorbing this content, you recognized yourself within these characteristics. Not flawlessly, not throughout every phase, yet sufficiently to experience that ache of recognition. You who have perpetually perceived dimensions slightly more profoundly than others appear to notice, who have felt labeled as excessively sensitive yet privately understand you are simply awake, who have engaged in shadow work, solitary during nighttime hours, asking difficult questions most individuals avoid throughout their entire existence, who have lost connections because you selected your peace over their approval. You might not acknowledge this about yourself, yet Jung would observe that you are already traveling the path of individuation, the journey toward becoming your authentic self, both spiritually and psychologically. Your profound spiritual awareness might not appear impressive. It might manifest as weeping on the floor while still maintaining commitment to truth. Declining requests with trembling voice. Exiting environments where your body cannot achieve relaxation. Praying not merely for desired outcomes, but for clarity and courage. Selecting healing, even when no one offers applause. This does not represent weakness. This represents mature strength. This constitutes a form of spiritual awareness. Should this message resonate with your heart, please consider engaging with this content and staying connected so you will not miss future moments when your soul requires hearing itself articulated. Tonight before sleep, rather than consuming content that generates self-doubt, allow your evening to conclude differently. A curated collection awaits at the conclusion of this presentation. Access that collection and allow it to continue playing softly in your environment as you drift towards sleep. Your physical form will rest, yet your subconscious mind will continue absorbing. Continue releasing the belief that you are excessive or insufficient. Continue anchoring the understanding that your depth, your sensitivity, your capacity for paradox, your boundaries, your courage are not random imperfections requiring concealment, but rather indicators that your soul remains quietly, steadily, intelligently, consciously, and profoundly alive.